that's you. Okay. So
And
you,
what direction?
good morning and welcome to Harvard's 4th Alumni Day and the 155th annual meeting of the Harvard Alumni Association. My name is Nancy Sinsaba. I'm a member of the Harvard Radcliffe class of 1976 and the Harvard Business School MBA class of 1978. Once again, I have the privilege and honor of working with my co-host Bill Horton of the great class of 1977. Bill, it's wonderful to be with you here today.
Thank you, Nancy. Wonderful to be with you here today and help celebrate your 20th live stream for the Harvard alumni.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, you're very welcome. And a shout out to all of those clubs and shared interest groups around the world who are hosting today viewing parties to be participating with us here in Tercentenary Theater. Thank you for joining this live stream that we bring you from our vantage point overlooking Tercentenary Theater in Harvard Yard. And it's a wonderful day, this June 6, 2025, as we welcome Harvard alumni back for a wonderful presentation of Harvard Alumni Day 4 and in celebration of Harvard's vibrant local and global community. We welcome you all to participate with us. And to paraphrase President Garber's commencement speech last week, we welcome alumni. Alumni from down the street, from across the country, and around the globe, as it should be. We are live streaming today in the hope of bringing you some of the enchantment of the gathering of alumni that you'll see on the screen, an event that benefits from centuries of history, going back to the first meeting of the Harvard Alumni Association in 1840. This is the Harvard Alumni Association's university-wide and global event, celebrating alumni impact, citizenship, and community. As part of our Alumni Day today, our keynote speaker, noted physician and author, Atul Gawande, a graduate of the Harvard Medical School in 1995 and the School of Public Health in 1999, his fellow alumni will reconnect in person with each other and with a campus that was their home for their undergraduate and graduate years. In addition to this address, highlights of a Harvard Alumni Day will include the traditional alumni parade through campus. I enjoy that, Nancy. I enjoy watching that.
Yes, absolutely.
And also remarks by President Alan Garber and a ceremony honoring this year's Harvard medalists. And as a special treat this year, the Harvard choirs, with many alumni participating, will provide musical features. This day will be a highlight of the alumni calendar, with the traditions and sense of connections that we enjoy, both with each other and with those who have gone before us. We are excited to welcome our alumni back to campus, see them in high spirits, and to celebrate our global alumni community. Maybe you could tell us a little bit, Nancy, about the history of Harvard College and give us a little context for today.
Thank you, Bill. But before I talk about Harvard history, we should acknowledge that this has been an unprecedented time in the 389-year history of Harvard University. The federal government's attempts to curtail Harvard's independence include attempt to freeze billions of federal research dollars that are used for all kinds of research at Harvard, a requirement that the federal government determine Harvard admissions, hiring, and disciplinary policies, an attempt to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll international students. About a third of the student population are international students here at Harvard. And finally, an attempt to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. In federal courts, the university is vigorously resisting these efforts to control the activities of an independent university. Bill, many times in the past few weeks, I have been reminded of lines from Fair Harvard, our song which we will sing later in the ceremonies today. But there are a couple of lines that I've been thinking about over and over. First one is, the calm rising through change and through storm. So right now we are being calm as we go through this period, this stormy period in Harvard history. And then at the end of Fair Harvard, the lines, be the herald of light and the bearer of love till the stars in the firmament die. And of course, Harvard is a leading institution. Other institutions follow what Harvard does. So that's us being the herald of light and the bearer of love. As alumni, we can choose how to support our alma mater by staying informed, registering for the webinars the university offers, and show up at local Harvard Club and shared interest groups events. There are also various organizations started by an alumni, including Crimson Courage and Alumni for Democracy, to name two of them, that inform and provide forums for information and discussion. Signing up for those forums would be another way to support Harvard. Most importantly, we'd like to suggest that alumni visit the Harvard Looks Forward website, which can be found by Googling Harvard Looks Forward. It includes information about how the university is advancing knowledge in service to society, strengthening the Harvard community, and open dialogue.
Nancy, those are important thoughts to convey to our alumni community today. We also take the opportunity today to celebrate Harvard. But for those of you who are interested in connecting to the Harvard Looks Forward website, that link will also be included in the description of this live stream when the video ends. So please be informed and be engaged.
And just a reminder that this live stream broadcast will be available on YouTube, Harvard's YouTube site this afternoon if you want to review what we've said here today.
So Nancy, we're here to celebrate now. Let's have a great day together. Tell us a little bit more about the history of Harvard College, if you will.
As you know, Bill, Harvard College was founded in 1636, and it was named New College. And at the time, Cambridge, the town of Cambridge, was known as Newtown. And the college was founded for a variety of reasons by the Puritan elders of the Massachusetts Bay Colony to train ministers for the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and also to provide a way to educate the Native Americans in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And as you know, Bill, Harvard is the oldest university in North America. The names of Newtown and New College were changed in 1638 after the death of John Harvard, a Puritan minister who lived in Charlestown, a town just at the border of Cambridge. When he passed away, he left all of his books and half of his fortune to the college in 1638. And this allowed the college to have enough money to hire tutors for the first time to train the students and teach the students.
And we see John Harvard's statue. On the screen now?
Right, there we see John Harvard. Now, as you know, Bill, there are several mistakes of people think that really is John Harvard. In fact, it's a statue by Daniel Chester French, the great 19th century American sculptor who was from Massachusetts, who did graduate from Harvard. But there's no likeness of John Harvard. So he chose a student at Harvard College. I wish we knew who that student was.
I think you will mention his grandfather later in the broadcast. So I won't mention his name now. We'll have that as an Easter egg for later.
All right. And they named, so this is, we don't know what John Harvard looked like, but this is the iconic statue by, again, Daniel Chester French, who also did the statue of Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial. So in 1638, the elders of the Mass Bay Colony were so grateful to John Harvard that they renamed the college Harvard College, and they renamed the town of Newtown, they renamed it Cambridge because John Harvard had graduated from Cambridge University. Now, one thing people don't know, Bill, is that Radcliffe, the name Radcliffe, which was started as an annex for women in 1879, Radcliffe is named after the woman who gave the very first scholarship at Harvard College in the 1640s. And her name was Anne Radcliffe, Lady Molson. So that's why they named the college for women at the time Radcliffe College.
So what were the two other lies, though, related to John Harvard?
One was, well, it says 1638 on the statue, and of course Harvard was founded in 1636, and you can tell the third.
Well, it was the likeness, the statue, and was John Harvard the founder? No, but the statue states that John Harvard was the founder, and you've explained very well that in fact is not true. Okay,
so Bill, as you know, the first classes were held in 1638. The first commencement was in 1642, but why was last week the 374th commencement as opposed to the 388th? The answer is that for the first few years, the first commencement was 1642, but then they would only hold a commencement when there were enough students who were ready to graduate. And also then during the smallpox epidemic in the 1720s, there were no commencement. And during the Revolutionary War, where classes were held in Concord, Harvard Yard was essentially empty, and there were no commencements held in that time. But that is why last week was a 374th commencement. Bill, what can we expect today at Harvard Alumni Day?
Well, Nancy, thank you for that recap about Harvard College. We celebrate today being together as some of the class of 2025 participate for the very first time as alumni with their fellow alumni, those present here and those around the globe. In fact, we welcome those in, for example, Melbourne, Australia, where it's right now, Saturday at 1 o'clock in the morning, and across Asia, Europe, and South America, and of course, those in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, my home country. And as Harvard students, we were reminded when entering Harvard Yard, as inscribed on Dexter Gate, for those of you who know, it's at Wigglesworth, enter to grow in wisdom. When leaving, we were encouraged to depart and serve better thy country and thy kind. For newly minted alumni, today is that first step in a long journey of self-discovery and service, importantly service, as alumni, citizens of the university, and citizens of the world. We'd like to extend a particular welcome to those 9,434 men and women who graduated last week to their first annual Alumni Day, and they joined our alumni community last week. And we also welcome 14 college reunion classes, and they are also with us today, including the great class of 1955, which is celebrating its 70th reunion this week, as well as all of those in the Crimson Society, alumni having celebrated together every year since their 50th reunions. Nancy, when I think about these reunions, I'm reminded of the words of our fellow alumnus, T.S. Eliot, from the class of '09, and that's 1909, who said, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Over the course of their reunions, many of our assembled alumni today will experience Harvard and know it in a lot of ways for the first time. So Nancy, any notable members of that 70th reunion class you'd like to point out to us?
Yes, Bill, thank you. Dr. Robert S. Blacklow, who's also a graduate of the medical school, is the chair of the 70th reunion from the great class of '55. And Dr. Blacklow assumed the role of secretary when lifetime Harvard class of '55 secretary Rennie Little passed away a few years ago. Now, Rennie was a member of the Happy Committee, and he was longtime chair of the Happy Committee subcommittee on atmospheric conditions. And that means he was in charge of the weather for both commencement and alumni day.
So I think he's helping us out now, Nancy.
He's helping us out today as well. Other members, notable members of the class of '55, it is the class of all Harvard reunion, of all Harvard classes that has the most Pulitzer Prize winners. They had 5 Pulitzer Prize winners in that class, including David Halberstam and Anthony Lucas. Another alum is Max Budd Jr., who is an architect who designed many of the important buildings in Africa, but even more importantly, he designed the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. Peter Malkin, longtime Harvard active Harvard alum and major donor, is also a member of the class, as is Cliff Alexander, the first African American Secretary of the Army. Then the class of 1975 has their 50th reunion this year. There are quite a number of co-chairs, including Peter Carfagna, Alex Costello, Gloria Wu, Chris Dubel, Libby Poyet, Rob Greenlee, Louise Reamer, and George Yaden. Notable people from that class include Patty Marks, the New Yorker and Saturday Night Live writer, and interestingly, Bill, she was the very first woman elected to the Harvard Lampoon. Michael Chertoff, the first Secretary of Homeland Security under George W. Bush. Karen Gordon Mills, the former head of the Small Business Administration. Ben Bernanke, the former head of the Federal Reserve. Jeff Melvoin, a TV producer of Northern Exposure and Killing Eve, among other TV programs. Lloyd Blankfein, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. And finally, Paul Finnegan, whom we will talk about later because he is one of today's Harvard medalists.
And just for a second, Nancy, we're seeing on the screen now the old yard, and now the procession as it winds its way down the middle of the aisle from Widener Library, the steps of Widener Library, towards the stage led by the pipers. So this is where things really start to get interesting. In fact, Nancy, you have some thoughts on what that means for us to follow this procession.
This is the annual parade of alumni, and remember, the first reunion was in 1643 when the college invited back those graduates of 1642 to come celebrate with that year's graduates. And I want to read to you, here we have our bagpiper. Every year there's a bagpiper who bagpipes in, if that's what one says, bagpipes in the alumni. But I want to read to you, Bill, what Ralph Waldo Emerson of the class of 1821 wrote during the bicentennial celebration of Harvard in 1836. This is what he wrote about the alumni procession. Cambridge at any time is full of ghosts, but on that day the anointed eye saw the crowd of spirits that mingled with the procession in vacant spaces, year by year, as the classes proceeded, and then the far longer train of ghosts that followed the company of the men that wore before us the college honors and the laurels of the state. the long winding train reaching back into eternity. So Bill, we see this year's version of the long winding train, and as the procession ends, I do generally see ghosts, including people like Ralph Waldo Emerson and perhaps Rennie Little. We'll see Rennie Little this year. There we see the dignitaries about to walk onto the stage. So that's the president and the corporation, the president fellows of Harvard College, official vice presidents of the university, as well as the Harvard medalists and the leaders of the Harvard Alumni Association. They are beginning to walk up onto the stage, and I am sure President Garber is there among the dignitaries coming onto the stage right now. So going back to the reunions, we also have the class of 1990 having their 35th reunion, and I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Tombaugh, who is a longtime class officer and has chaired every reunion. So we thank Jennifer for her service to the university, and we hope the class of 1990 has a wonderful reunion. And finally, the class of aught. I love that, aught. We don't say 2000, we say aught. The 25th reunion class has Dara Olmsted Silverstein as their chief marshal, along with reunion co-chairs Justin Krebs, Bryce Klempner, Sienna Lace, and John Bassagill. So that's our quick review of the reunion classes. More than 10,000 alumni are here for various reunions. And before we stop talking about alumni of past years, I want to give a thank you to, today is the 81st anniversary of the D-Day invasion of Normandy. And I want to give a shout out to all of the veterans, Harvard alums who are veterans, whether they are still with us or whether they have passed away, and say thank you for your service.
So Nancy, just to point out, we can see on the stage, so at the top of the screen, just to our right of the lectern is President Alan Garber, and to the far left in the light pants and dark coat is Tim Barakat, who's now the treasurer of Harvard and part of the corporation. So the dignitaries are starting to gather on stage now, as you can see. We can see the Harvard medalists will be to the right of the screen. You can see Carolyn Hughes there, and there's a nice shot of Alan Garber talking with Greg Rosenbaum with the hat on, who is one of those members of the Harvard Alumni Association who guides the dignitaries
and he's
during both
also
commencement.
a member of the U.S. Olympic Committee.
That's correct.
Greg Rosenbaum. So it's great to see him up there talking to President Garber.
So Nancy, last week, May 29th, the graduates of the class of 2025 were...
Bill,
there we go. There's the 10th
reunion. So the great class of 2015 is walking in, and they are starting their reunion activities today, and it will go through the weekend. So it's great to see so many of the younger alums. Bill, now that we're in the older alum category, it's great to see all the younger alums who are coming back to Harvard. And interestingly, the attendance of the younger classes, reunion attendance, has been off the charts.
Well, and I think the idea of Alumni Day is really, I think, emphasized by watching this gathering of people. Here we see in the old yard. I'd like to encourage alumni to come back and experience this for yourselves. This is a remarkable experience for all alumni.
Yeah, the 15th reunion, we now see the 15th reunion class coming in. So as you can tell, the classes are coming in according to age. So starting with the 5th,
so I think there's also a great close-up on stage that we can see right now. And we see then just a little bit to the right of the screen, we see Moitri Savard, who's the president of the Harvard Alumni Association, getting ready to...
She's waving at us.
She's waving to it. And there you see Alan Garber, Tim Barakat, and with his back to us right now is David Johnston, who will be a Harvard Award winner this year and is a former Prime Minister of Canada. So we'll speak a little bit more about David Johnston's background but there you see him on stage. So last week, Alan Garber welcomed the class of 2025 to join the company of learned individuals. And President Garber urged graduates to remember the relationships they developed and the challenges they overcame during their time at Harvard. And importantly, to advocate for education. He also cautioned against comfortable thinking and the danger of becoming too certain in one's own opinions, emphasizing the importance of humility, empathy, and a willingness to change one's mind. Dr. Garber also celebrated the graduates of Harvard as living proof of Harvard's mission and its impact on communities around the world. And on this sunny day last week, the principal speaker, Abraham Verghese, best-selling author, Stanford professor, and infectious disease doctor, was the principal speaker at Harvard's 374th commencement. He lauded Harvard's principled stance against government overreach and urged graduates to protect their values and honor sacrifices. He also,
yes.
Oh, well, there
Sorry
we see
to
some good
interrupt.
shots.
We have
Yes.
the 20th reunion class now starting to come in. The 20th reunion class, there we have it. The 20th reunion class, which is gathering in Harvard Yard, about to walk into the Tercentenary Theater. So that's the great class of 2005.
Nancy, you and I walked through that crowd on the way over. We were sitting just off the stage, stage left, but we walked through that crowd, and you could sense the excitement that the alumni were feeling at being together on this beautiful day in Cambridge.
And I'm happy to say my son is a member of the 20th reunion class of
Wonderful.
2005. So he is here. He will be here with us this weekend celebrating his reunion.
So back quickly to Abraham Verghese's comments last week. He lauded Harvard's principled stance against government overreach and urged graduates to protect their values and honor sacrifices. He also praised America's welcoming nature for immigrants. He himself was an immigrant, and stressed the importance of character and courage in decision-making. His address revolved around three central ideas: moral clarity, revealed by decisions made under pressure, the necessity of compassion, and the finite nature of time.
As we look at the 20th reunion class again, I love seeing all these young children in Harvard Yard. And it's so much fun to see alums come back with their children. I've talked to many children of my classmates over the years, and I was talking to the son of one of my classmates yesterday, and he was saying that when his mother brought him to the 25th reunion, that's when he decided he needed to work hard, study hard, so he could get into Harvard. So, you know, it's great to see alums bring their children. We see children in strollers. Look at that. So.
Well, we can also see on the other close-up on stage, there's some really good shots. There we see, about to switch to that on the stage at the lectern at the bottom. And even closer, we can see in the light-colored suit, Rachel Lamson, who's one of the longtime and very beloved HAA, Harvard Alumni Association people. And beside her, Moitri Savard, who you'll talk a little bit about later, Nancy. And you can see as the group continues to assemble on stage, you can see right behind, just behind Rachel Lamson now, in the suit, the blue suit, walking to your left right now, is Stephen Turbin, who's class of 2017, current treasurer of the Harvard Alumni Association, and also visiting with us today from Vietnam.
Yes.
So there are people from around the world gathered today. And I'm just going to point out right in the middle of the picture now, in the glasses, is Will Macris, who we'll talk about.
In the light blue shirt, yes.
Is the incoming president of the Harvard Alumni Association, and he'll take over the presidency on July 1st. And you can point out beside him, sorry, with his back to us right now, with the dark hair, is Ty Moore, who is
another Buckeye.
Another Buckeye. I thought you'd like that, Nancy.
He's from Cincinnati, yes. He was last year's president of the Alumni Association.
Right. So we see a great gathering on stage, and as you can see, people are assembling in order to make ready for all of the alumni to be seated. Now, we're just seeing on the stage now, again, there's on the stage, you can see in the top hat, Nancy, you wanted to talk a little bit about our 25th reunion marshal, the class marshal, the chief marshal for this year.
Since 1899, the 25th reunion class has elected one person to lead the alumni celebrations. And this year it is, from the class of Ott is Dara Olmsted Silverstein, who is a longtime Harvard class secretary, class treasurer, and she has chaired every one of her reunions. She is a food sustainability expert, has previously worked in the Harvard Office of Sustainability, and is today's alumni chief marshal. I'm looking for her. You'll recognize her because she wears a huge rosette. So I don't see her at the moment, but when we see her, we will point her out. But we're great to have Dara. We're happy to have Dara with us today. Bill, maybe you could tell us about the history of reunions?
Goes back a long way, Nancy. 1643 was the first Harvard reunion, when graduates of the class of 1642 returned to Cambridge to celebrate. Not quite in the same way as you're seeing on the screen right now, which is a spectacular view of Tercentenary Theater, with the shields that we'll talk about later, and the classes assembling. In front of us, you can see the classes of 30th reunion and 25th reunion. But in the early years of the college, officials of the Massachusetts Bay Colony were worried that the college might not survive. And so each year at the time of the graduate's oration and at the time of commencement, politicians, ministers, merchants, farmers, and other elders of the colony would travel to Cambridge to celebrate with graduates, listen to their speeches, debates, and orations, and join in their feasts and athletic contests.
Bill, we can see the 50th class reunion banner there to the left of the screen, on the left of the screen. And there it is. And that shows you where the great class of 1970 is sitting. And in the backdrop, you see the Veritas banners hanging on Widener Library, and as well as the shields of the houses, primarily the houses, but also the graduate schools hanging from the trees.
Right, and we'll talk a little bit about that later when we get a chance. So this is a uniquely American tradition, these commencement festivities and alumni reunions. And it's a tradition now shared by major universities around the world. Since the mid-17th century, alumni have returned to Harvard to celebrate along with graduates, and importantly, Nancy, as you mentioned before, their families. It's very important that this is a group of people who like being together.
Okay, and now we can see the non-reunion classes in the lower right, the class of 2001, the class of 2008, because the alumni parade includes not just the reunion classes, but all the classes. There we have it on the screen. Different classes, you'll see there, they don't have banners, they have small signs, but it is always great to see how many people from non-reunion classes come to celebrate with us on Alumni Day. Bill, as you know, we have been having a Harvard Alumni Association annual meeting since 1848, when John Quincy Adams, former president of the United States, was the first Harvard Alumni Association the first Harvard Alumni Association president. And here in Cambridge, we say that the John Quincy Adams' service as President of the United States was an excellent preparation for his service as the first Harvard Alumni Association president. For the fourth year, Alumni Day is on a different day than commencement. So commencement was last week, and this week we are having Alumni Day. And the reason the change was made is there were so many people coming back to Alumni Day, coming back to their reunions, that Cambridge could really no longer accommodate the students, graduates, their families, as well as all the alumni. So now we have Cambridge and the Harvard campus to ourselves to celebrate Alumni Day. Bill, what can we expect from the 155th meeting of the Harvard Alumni Association?
As you can well imagine, Nancy, there is a process, and you'll see that group assemble on the stage that's in the background in front of Memorial Church with the blue wall behind it. And our current Harvard Alumni Association president, Moitri Savard, class of 93, will gavel in our meeting, and we will also hear from Atul Gawande, who's both a graduate of the medical school in 95, as I mentioned before, and also the School of Public Health. There's another shot of the stage that you can see people gathering. We won't see the stage seated completely until we have all of our alumni in the theater, in Tercentenary Theater. But we'll also, during the, here we have, in the center of the screen with the top hat and the glasses, is David Batat, who will be the first vice president this year of the Harvard Alumni Association, which means next year, following Will Macris, he will be the president of the Harvard Alumni Association, just in time to celebrate his 35th reunion. So it's a great group of people, of very dedicated volunteers that you're seeing on the screen right now. I have to point out too, in the light dress to the left of the screen is Allison Mendenhall, who's my friend from Colorado, who's a former president of the Harvard Alumni Association, and she flew in 2 days ago from Colorado and is celebrating her 35th reunion.
She was talking to Michael Cronin, longtime Harvard class treasurer of the class, the great class of 1975. He's on the reunion committee. He's on the board of the Harvard Club of Boston, and he is chair of the class of 75 gift committee.
And I'll just point out, to the right of the lectern, you can see in the red dress, Teresita Alvarez Gugelland, who's one of your compatriots in the class of 76. So, and she's talking right now to Mark Goodhart, who will be leaving service to Harvard as the course secretary of the corporation, and we thank him for his long, dedicated, insightful service to helping guide the university through many issues, and we're glad to have him. Mark is a college graduate of 1981.
And he's been serving in that role for more than 30 years.
Yes, so there you can see him facing us now.
Yes. All right.
So we also welcome, we don't see her quite on stage yet, but I'll point her out when she comes, is Sarah Carmon, who's the Associate Vice President and Executive Director of the Harvard Alumni Association. And Sarah joined the HAA in 2016 and served as Deputy Executive Director for 5 years, before becoming Executive Director in 2023. Sarah brings to the role a wealth of experience, knowledge, and importantly, a very positive energy to leading our alumni staff, as well as a dedication to Harvard. It's also worth noting that Sarah becomes the first woman to serve as the head or as the executive director of the Harvard Alumni Association.
And Bill, we can see more alumni, non-reunion classes coming in from the old yard. Here they are, the class of 87. The class of 82. I guess we're going backwards in time.
They'll get into the old yard soon.
Pretty soon we'll see your class, the class of 77, and my class, the class of 76.
Right.
So anyway, again, the weather is so perfect today. It's in the high 60s, low 70s, cloud cover, which means it won't be too sunny. There we see 82. Oh, there's 76. That's my class.
That's
oh,
your class.
Yes. Yes, I see classmate Bill Ackerman. I see classmate Bob Monahan. I see quite a number. Oh, and Ted Kalari is, classmate Ted Kalari is carrying our 1976 sign. And
you will, of course, celebrate your 50th reunion next year.
I know. Bill, how can I be that old? I don't understand how that happened. Anyway.
So, before we leave the dignitaries on stage, I just wanted parenthetically to note that we do have now a new Vice President of University Development, Alumni Affairs and Development. Jim Husson was appointed on April 1st to that role and succeeds Brian Lee, who came to the position in 2018. We also thank Brian for his leadership of Harvard Alumni Affairs and Development over the last 8 years.
Absolutely, thank you, Brian. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our current HAA president, Moitri Savard, from the great class of 1993. She is committed to listening deeply, respecting differences, finding common ground in shared values. Now we see on the screen more and more alumni are filing in, so the parade continues. And we can also see the graduate schools are lining up. So we have the Graduate School of Education coming in, as well as other graduate schools. Here we go, graduate schools are coming in as well. And that's really wonderful to see. So it's not only the college reunion classes, the college alumni, but also graduate school alumni are invited to our Alumni Day celebration.
And even more reason to invite alumni who are watching this live stream to join us next year. Make plans to join us and personally experience what it's like to be back at Harvard. And as I said earlier, perhaps to experience it for the first time.
Dr. Moitri, she is a physician, a pediatrician, and she's a medical director and assistant professor of clinical pediatrics at the Long Island City Center of Weill Cornell Medicine. And she has said, when you listen deeply, you can identify shared values. I bring my ability to listen deeply and to consider the whole picture to my work with the alumni community. And we want to thank Moitri for her service this year as Harvard HAA president. She immigrated to the US from India as an infant and grew up in New York City. And like me, she's from Leverett House, so she's another bunny. We'll talk about that later. And Bill, what about our incoming HAA president?
You know, a lot that we can say about Will Macris, who's graduated from the School of Education in 2000. This is his 25th reunion from the School of Education. But during
Just a minute, we see Harvard Law School alums marking in, as well as GSD as Graduate School of Design. Right. So again, we see quite a number of alums from the graduate schools coming to celebrate Alumni Day with us.
And Will is worked very closely with Moitri Savard in the last year, and he's also a great listener, Nancy, and respects differences, finds common ground, and has a great natural energy about him. As he prepares to step into his role as the Harvard Alumni president on July 1st, it's a position that leads the board of directors and represents alumni worldwide. So he will be traveling and could be traveling to a location near you. He's eager to listen, always, I've found, and looks to support and strengthen the growth of Harvard's global alumni community. And throughout his career, he's helped to coach and advise mid-career professionals pursuing advanced degrees by being present, by being open to innovative ideas, and unafraid to ask questions. So Will has worked in various leadership roles, including MIT.
We now see Will on the stage
just
in the blue suit.
Yes, to the left of the lectern. That's right.
Yes, just to the left of the lectern. There he is. He's putting his hand on somebody's back. He just shook hands with someone. That's our incoming Harvard Alumni Association President, Will Macris.
Great. So as we see Will there now facing us, it's great to know that he will be leading alumni over the next year. And now that we know some of the players, Nancy, what can we expect? Here's what we can expect from this annual meeting. And I'm not going to go through all the detail, but we encourage you to stay on and watch what's going on as Moitri Savard gavels us in. We'll have Sarah Carmon do a volunteer recognition. And here's some special things. we'll have an alumni group, an amalgamation of a number of vocal groups who will be performing Radcliffe, We Now Rise to Greet Thee. I walked by them rehearsing on our way over here, Nancy. It's really a remarkable experience. So please stay around and watch the Harvard Din and Tonics, the Harvard Glee Club, Harvard Radcliffe Collegium Musicum, among other Harvard groups of alumni serenading alumni.
And there we see the class of 1973, again, a non-reunion class, but they're marching into Harvard, the Centenary Theater, and we see the 45th reunion class of 1980, also with the banner. So they're having their 45th reunion.
And they'll all be there finally in their seats. We know that people are still trailing in from the old yard, but we'll also have another musical performance by Daka Thurber, who is a class of 25, performing for her first time as an alumna, and also Sava Thurber, class of 27. And they will provide us with a traditional Polish caprice, and with accompaniment by violinists. Alan Garber will introduce Atul Gawande, our speaker today, and then, importantly, before Moitri gavels us out from the meeting, that a group of alumni will serenade us with Fair Harvard, also worth staying around for. So Nancy, we're going to shortly go to the old yard and maybe have a look, when we look at the old yard when we get a chance, but also there are shields, as and you can see, for the music of the annual meeting. Before we go into that, we'll be enjoying musical performances, and it's noted, and I'm going to point out again that the choir is made up from alumni from 7 shared interest groups. So these are alumni who come together often in order to be with each other, but are now performing together. There again is a great shot you can see looking towards the steps of Widener Library. As our alumni come in, you can see a sign to the right for the class of 1961. Again, we have alumni from around the world and across generations joining us here today. So, Nancy, we're seeing right now the parade as it unfolds. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's going on. And well, I think we've talked about how Emerson really helped encapsulate the idea of ghosts, and how when we have that procession, it really gives us a real sense of how gathering people together for reunions has been going on now for centuries, and is, as we mentioned before, a unique tradition, or developed uniquely by Harvard and now adopted around the world. Now, Nancy, we do have some senior alumni today. We always like to recognize our most senior alumni. Now, they're likely not seated yet, but we may pan to them later on. I'd just like to mention their names right now so that when they do come on screen, we'll be able to identify them. The oldest, or the eldest, female alumna today is Linda Cabot Black, class of 51, who will turn 98 years old this December.
And for the men, Harvard College graduates, it's Stan Carson of the class of 1948, who got his master's in 1950. He will turn 100 on June 21st, and he is here with us today. So those are our 2 oldest alumni. And there we have a great shot of Veritas Truth, the longtime symbol of Harvard University.
Now, you may notice a banner on the screen right now. To the right of the Veritas banner, to the right of that is a banner for the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. So it is, each of the faculties has its own shield or banner that identifies it, as do the houses.
Yes, so maybe we could take a look at some of the shields. On the far left, We have the Radcliffe Shield on the far left,
Oh, yeah,
almost
just hiding behind
the
the tree. Yeah.
That's the shield of Radcliffe. And maybe we could take at some of the other shield shots in the yard.
Well, while we're doing that, Nancy, well, I'll just point out that there were, as I said before, 9,434 degrees awarded last week to newly minted Harvard alumni. The bulk of those, 2,000, were from Harvard College, but the next in order were the Harvard Extension School and the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, with over 1,300 graduates from each of those classes. So from the 13 different graduate schools and including the college, and those numbers, by the way, include those who were given their degrees or awarded their degrees in November of last year and March of this year. And we welcome them today, those degree recipients, as they join this meeting of the global community of Harvard alumni. And you can see we're looking very like we're filling up Tercentenary Theater right now. We're about 10 minutes away from the start of the meeting. So Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about the fact that these are not commencement rights, but they are very important rights on their own?
Thank you, Bill. Yes, one of my favorite description of commencement is from our dearly departed former university minister, Peter Gomes, who presided over Memorial Church for more than 40 years. And here is what he wrote about commencement. Someone observing the casual dignity of the day remarked that commencement is more like a lawn party than a ballet, and a less charitable but more astute observer suggested that the vast assemblage in formation was very much like that wonderfully chaotic scene and that game of croquet with flamingos and hedgehogs in Alice in Wonderland. First-time visitors, first-time Alumni Day visitors are rather horrified at what appears to be rank confusion. But then they remember that this is, after all, Harvard, where conformity, even of self-preservation, has been elevated to the rank of an original sin. That it works at all is a tribute to patience and goodwill and the general sense that, come what may, the day is to be enjoyed. So we've seen a lot of chaos here this morning, and we can expect a happy but chaotic scene to continue. And by the way, Bill, in the late 18th century, elephants, mermaids, and mummies sometimes appeared in Harvard Yard at commencement, but I don't think we'll see any of those today. Too bad.
There's always a chance, though, Nancy.
And then one more little known fact. I live here in Cambridge, and Bill, as you know, in the charter of Harvard, it says that residents of Cambridge have the right to graze their livestock in Harvard Yard. So one of these years, on Alumni Day, I may show up with my hungry sheep so they can munch on the grass during the festivities. That would be chaos indeed. Okay, now we have a good shot of the shields in Harvard Yard, and if you could see straight ahead.
Well, just far left, we have the business school.
We have the business school,
the business school, and then the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. We have the Shield of Harvard, and then, of course, in the direct middle is above the stairs of Widener. We've got the Shield of Harvard, Harvard Medical School with the lion, Harvard Dental School with the chess piece with the rook, and you can just see hiding behind some of the. You can see Mather House. Just behind the trees there, off to the far right.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is a great shot you're seeing now from the stage. So that's where you see a lot of the top hats that we'll talk about soon. But I'm just going to mention quickly, Nancy, our Alumni Day speaker, Atul Gawande. As I said before, was a medical school grad of 95, public health school grad of 99. And he's always been driven by curiosity.
So Bill, now that we see all the chaos in Harvard Yard, I'd like to recite a poem.
That's great.
Written by Seamus Haney for Harvard's 350th celebration in 1986. And the title of the poem is John Harvard Walks the Yard. A spirit moved, John Harvard walked the yard. The atom lay unsplit, the West unwon, the book stood open and the gates unbarred. The maps dreamt on like moondust, nothing stirred. The future was a verb in hibernation. A spirit moved, John Harvard walked the yard. Before the classic style, before the clabbered, all through the small hours of an origin, the books stood open and the gates unbarred. Night passage of a migratory bird, wing flap, gown flap, like a homing pigeon, a spirit moved, John Harvard walked the yard. Was that his soul? Look, sped to its reward, by grace or works, a shooting star, an omen. The book stood open and the gate unbarred. Begin again where frosts and tests were hard. Find yourself or founder. Here, imagine a spirit moves. John Harvard walks the yard. The books stand open and the gates unbarred.
Well, what a wonderful invocation, Nancy. I love hearing that. It brings goosebumps when I hear that Seamus Heaney poem. Maybe we could talk very quickly, because I know we're just shortly away from the start of the meeting. Can you tell me about that hat that you're wearing?
Yes, Bill, this is the women's top hat that I've been wearing at Harvard Commencement since 2006. And the story behind it was I've been a member of the Happy Committee for 40 years, and one year I was supposed to be on duty at 6:30, but my yard pass said 6:45. The guards would not let me in, but every man in a top hat.
Right, because they had one of these, right?
They had one of those, exactly. So I said, okay, that's the last time that's going to happen. So then I found this hat and I decorated it with more feathers, and now it's the woman's top hats for the members of the Happy Committee and marshals. Oh, and now we see Moitri coming to the podium. There she is, ready to gavel the meeting into session.
With that, we'll wait for Moitri and wish you all a great year. Join us next year for Harvard Alumni Day. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bill.
Let's do it. President Garber, members of the Harvard Corporation and Board of Overseers, Dr. Gawande, members of the faculty, honored guests, HAA Board of Directors, fellow alums and volunteer leaders, friends and graduates from the class of 2025, welcome to Harvard Alumni Day. This is also the 155th annual meeting of the Harvard Alumni Association, and I'm very honored to be here with you all today. I am Moitri Chaudhary Savard from the great Harvard and Radcliffe College classes of 1993. I'm also president of the Harvard Alumni Association this year. In accordance with the traditions set out by our very first HAA president, John Quincy Adams, from the Harvard College class of 1787, it is my duty to call this meeting to order. I would love some assistance with this, so Mr. Sheriff, pray give us order.
As the High Sheriff of Middlesex County and a proud alumnus of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, I declare that the meeting will be in order.
Thank you, Sheriff. The 155th HAA annual meeting has now commenced. From its origins, our Harvard alumni community has been anchored and enriched by Native and Indigenous peoples from across the Americas and around the world. The land on which Harvard is situated has been a place of learning for millennia, where Native and Indigenous peoples have passed on their culture, history, and traditions from one generation to the next. I acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which Harvard University resides, the people of the Massachusetts tribe and their elders, past, present, and emerging, and honor the land itself, which remains sacred to the Massachusetts people. I acknowledge and pay my respects to the Nipmuc and Wampanoag peoples with whom Harvard has a long historical relationship, and I acknowledge and pay my respects to all other Native and Indigenous elders who are here today. With this land acknowledgement, I think about those on whose shoulders we stand. Our global alumni community of over 420,000 people has extraordinarily strong and broad shoulders. At the beginning of my, give it up. Those shoulders came in handy over the last year. At the beginning of my presidency, I called upon the class of 2024 to reflect on our university's motto, Veritas. I urged that the moment required more of us, to grapple with the plural, Veritates. Today, I'm even more convinced that we must strengthen this muscle to hold multiple truths and to coalesce around our many shared values, particularly freedom of thought and expression, and respect and kindness. This past year, we have seen an assault on many of these values. Our university faces challenges unprecedented in our almost 400-year history. Please continue to be informed, principled ambassadors during this critical moment. Advocate for higher education with everyone who will listen, including your elected officials. Give of your time, your money, and your voice. The postcards from Florida alumni I recently received voicing messages of pride and thanks were so appreciated. Thank you to those alums, and thank you to all of you for everything you do for your communities and for Harvard. It has truly been an honor and joy to serve as your president this year. One of the greatest gifts of our community is that it spans several decades, from our most recent graduates all the way to our eldest alums, several of whom are with us here today. Join me in warmly welcoming Linda Cabot Black of the Radcliffe class of 1951, who will turn 97 in December. You guys can keep on standing because from the Harvard College class of 1948, just days away from turning 100 years old on June 21st, is Stanley Carson, AB 48 AM 50. So you see these shoulders that I stand on and the pride that I have. Together, Linda Black and Stanley Carson led the alumni parade today. Thank you for joining us. It is a tremendous honor to celebrate our community with you. Your years of engagement in the Harvard Alumni Association is a profound statement to our newest graduates that their alumni experience is just beginning. On July 1st, someone who embodies what it means to be an alum ambassador and university-wide citizen will become HAA president. Will Maker's Ed School class of 2000 has spent much of his professional career working in higher education, experience that will serve him well, especially during this time. In addition to being an active leader in the Graduate School of Education alumni community, he has been an active leader on the HAA board. I've had the honor and privilege of working closely with him this past year and know that he will serve our alumni proudly. Will, please stand. Tag, you're it. An important tradition for the 25th reunion college classes is the election of the Chief Marshal of Alumni. Our Chief Marshal this year is a committed food sustainability advocate, philanthropist, editor, and active Harvard volunteer. Her deep engagement with the alumni community, from alumni interviewing to class-specific leadership to broader university engagement, has been impactful and meaningful for so many. It is my great honor to recognize our Chief Marshal for Alumni, member of the Harvard College class of 2000, Dara Olmsted Silverstein. Come on up. Will she and the 25th College Reunion class please stand up? You look good. A dedicated member of our community, Sarah Carmone is the Associate Vice President and Executive Director of the Harvard Alumni Association. During her 25-plus years of service to Harvard, Sarah has held multiple roles in the HAA, the University Development Office, and Chief of Staff for then Harvard Provost Alan Garber. Sarah's appreciation of tradition, her embracing of innovative ideas, her enthusiasm and energy to engage with and support the alumni community has never been more important than it is today. Please join me in welcoming Sarah Carmone.
Thank you, Moitri. Thank you, Moitri. President Garber, Provost Manning, Fellows of Harvard College, members of the Board of Overseers, members of the HAA Board, presidents of the Graduate School Councils, honored guests, and especially Harvard alumni, good afternoon. This has been another challenging year in Harvard's history, and on behalf of the leadership of the university, I want to express our deepest gratitude for the unwavering support and invaluable contributions of our alumni volunteers. You are incredibly important to Harvard and to all members of our alumni community. We at the Harvard Alumni Association could not do the work we do without you. I'm especially pleased to welcome the dedicated alumni who led the reunion planning and fundraising efforts for their classes this year. This group has pioneered all aspects of the work involved in bringing more than 14 reunion celebrations to life this weekend for more than 10,000 fellow alumni and their guests. This group is deserving of some special recognition. When COVID happened in 2020, their planning efforts came to a screeching halt. Their commitment and dedication persisted, and we're especially grateful for their leadership. Let's give them a special round of applause. I want to take a moment to offer a few other words of congratulations. First, to the class of 2005, whose incredible efforts have set a 20th reunion registration record. Your enthusiasm inspires us all. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of this year's 50th reunion, many of whom have been involved. Many of whom have been involved in their reunion gift and program efforts for the last 50 years. Thank you. And as a side note for all of our 50th reunion attendees, in case you're not aware, you are now welcome to come back to campus every year for reunion as the newest members of the Crimson Society. A truly special shout out goes to the legendary class of 1955 celebrating their 70th reunion. 70 years of service and leadership. Thank you for your loyalty and enduring contributions to the Harvard and Radcliffe community. And to our wonderful reunion gift campaign volunteers from the classes of 2020's 5th to the class of 1955's 70th. You have engaged more than 4,200 of your classmates this year, encouraging their support of the college at this critical time for Harvard. Thanks to all of you and to the thousands of alumni who made a reunion gift this year. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the members of the HAA Board of Directors. In addition to our elected directors, members of the HAA Board represent alumni volunteers from the college, the graduate schools, and our global network of clubs and shared interest groups. We're so glad to have you here. I also want to take a moment to congratulate our newest HAA elected directors and members of the Board of Overseers. We're grateful to those 12 individuals and to all of the candidates for their willingness to be of service to Harvard, and to each of you who cast your vote. And I especially want to say thank you to the newest members of our alumni volunteer ranks, the leaders of the class of 2025 from across the university. Congratulations and welcome. Before I close, there is one alum who deserves special recognition and thanks this year, Jack Reardon. On June 30th, Jack will officially retire after more than 60 years of dedicated service to this institution. Every person in this theater today has benefited from his leadership, his wisdom, and his deep commitment to his alma mater. Jack, there are not enough words nor time today to adequately describe your impact. So on behalf of Harvard's leadership and our alumni, I will just say thank you. To honor the contributions of Radcliffe College and its alumni, and to mark its historical significance for women and men alike, I am pleased to introduce alumni from the Harvard Din and Tonics, the Harvard Glee Club, the Harvard Radcliffe Collegium Musicum, the Radcliffe University Choir, the Kumbah Singers of Harvard College, the Radcliffe Choral Society, and the Radcliffe Pitches to lead us in singing Radcliffe, Now We Rise to Greet Thee.
Thank you so much for that beautiful rendition of the song. It is now my pleasure to introduce Harvard's 31st president, Dr. Alan Garber. I had a feeling that was going to happen. Okay. I love it. I haven't even gotten a chance to introduce him yet. My husband and I were joking that we have to have an action figure with a cape with a big H on the back for you, Alan. Prior to becoming president of Harvard, he served as provost and chief academic officer of the university since 2011. In this capacity, he was responsible for oversight of all academic activities throughout Harvard and had direct responsibility for interschool initiatives, faculty development, research policy, international affairs, and advances in learning. He is the Mallinckrodt Professor of Healthcare Policy at Harvard Medical School and holds teaching positions in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, Harvard Kennedy School, and T.H. Chan School of Public Health. And here we go. Join me in welcoming President Garber.
Wow, that's a lot of excitement for an annual report. Thank you, Moitri. Greetings, alumni and friends. Really, my task today is to update you on the state of the university. That's not a joke. To state the obvious, this has not been a typical year. So this will not be a typical update. In recent months, Harvard has attracted an unusual amount of attention. Unless you have been living off the grid or on the International Space Station with Harvard Medical School alum Johnny Kim, you are no doubt familiar with some of the serious challenges the university is facing. What is our approach to those challenges? First, we are defending the university against misrepresentations of who we are and what we do. Second, we are defending the university against retaliation by the federal government for refusing to surrender our rights. And third, we are addressing legitimate criticism. We recognize that no university, no institution is without flaws. They are inevitable. They are also correctable. We are working hard to ensure that we give each person at Harvard the opportunity to thrive, which means providing for the safety and security of all members of our community and combating anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination and hate. We are working to promote open discourse and constructive dialogue so that everyone feels comfortable expressing their views. We are developing plans to ensure that a greater variety of respected, rigorous, and compelling viewpoints is present and heard on our campus. And we have made clear the rights and responsibilities that membership in our community demands. Unless we are able to overcome these flaws, we are unlikely to be successful in pursuing our mission of excellence in teaching, learning, and research. We have reason to be optimistic. Only one thing about Harvard has persisted over 388 years, and actually, it's not our name. It's our embrace of scrutiny, advancement, and renewal. A perfect university would not be a university at all. These irreplaceable institutions, established, nurtured, and supported over centuries, are built on the idea that there is always more to know and more to do. Just as humanity rounds the bend from ignorance to insight, new vistas open and more possibilities for progress appear on the horizon. One of the greatest joys of life is realizing that there is no end to learning, no end to discovery, no moment to rest on one's laurels, and not a minute to waste. The pursuit of truth, of veritas, is perpetual. We are unceasing in our efforts to champion our motto. Many of us are here today because institutional mistakes, small and large, subtle and glaring, were identified, considered, and corrected by our predecessors. Like them, we bear the responsibility of delivering to our successors an institution that is better and stronger than the one we inherited. Like them, we prepare Harvard not for the age that is unfolding now, but for the age that is waiting before us. Last week, I told our graduates that they are the hope of Harvard embodied, living proof that our mission changes not only the lives of individuals, but also the trajectories of communities. I know that is true because of you. Your care and your attention, your service and leadership, your achievements and contributions, many heralded, but many, many more delivered with little fanfare, across too many fields of endeavor to list, have made life better for countless people and have made the world better for all of us. As Harvard has faced demands from without, you have provided strength from within. You have advocated for our interests and supported our research and teaching efforts. Out of loyalty, you have offered honest and thoughtful criticism. You have inspired me with your stories of how the university fueled your ambitions and helped you accomplish more than you dreamed you could. You have told me about the classmates and friends who changed your thinking and the faculty and mentors who expanded your perspective. And one of you, who has demonstrated remarkable courage in standing up for the rights we all hold dear, let me know last week how readings from Social Studies 10, Sock Stud 10, decades ago, have come in very handy today. Now, a reasonable person might make a fair observation about what I've just said. Of course, alumni and friends of Harvard love Harvard. Of course, alumni and friends are defending our mission to educate students, produce and disseminate knowledge, and serve our nation and our world. Of course, Alumni and friends are standing up for this institution and everything for which it has stood for centuries, and for which it continues to stand. But what about the people with no direct connection to Harvard, Alan? Well, your many emails and letters were not the only ones I received this semester. Thousands of individuals who have only experienced Harvard from a distance, some who had known it as little more than a name, also took the time to voice their support for the university. Our efforts to preserve academic freedom and our insistence that no government should dictate what we teach, who we admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue, were welcomed and applauded around the world and across the country, from every state in the Union. I've heard from a monk in Arkansas. A librarian in Kentucky, a firefighter in Massachusetts, a dentist in Oregon, a veteran in Virginia, a social worker in Wisconsin. The list goes on and on. I've heard from high school students and college students, from people who care deeply about higher education and what it represents, and from parents and grandparents whose own hope for the future is bound to the prospects of their children and grandchildren. The road ahead will not be easy, wrote a woman from Arizona. But I believe future generations will look back at this moment and remember that when principles were tested, Harvard did not yield. As long as there are people across this country and around the world and within this hallowed theater who believe in the promise of Harvard, who put their hope in higher education, I will never lose confidence in our ability to meet our obligation to the future. The university is as strong as the people of the university. That is all of you, and so many others. If I have learned anything since our last meeting, in addition to everything I learned about the tenacity of glitter, it is that the people who support this university are far more numerous than I ever hoped to imagine. May their confidence in our motto and our mission and their willingness to stand with Harvard sustain us in the months to come. May Veritas lift us up and light our way, especially in dark times, enabling Harvard and our fellow universities to persevere and succeed in building a better future. Not perfect, but more perfect than the present. And may those who come after us look back on the work we do today with gratitude and pride. Thank you.
Truly, truly thank you, President Garber. Now we will hear from two talented musicians and brothers who will perform a violin duet. Dacha Thurber, formerly of Quincy House, is the newest member of the alumni community, having graduated just last week as a double concentrator in music and computer science. Sava Thurber is the class of 2027 and resides in Leverett House and is currently studying environmental engineering.
Thank you very much. We are thrilled to share two songs which highlight the importance of an international voice in a place which we're so fortunate to call home. The first is, thank you. The first is a Polish folk song about a love for home, and the second is a caprice by the Polish composer Henryk Wieniawski, a piece for a time like this where we are all celebrating being in a place which we call home.
Thank you, Dacha and Saba, for sharing your talents with all of us today. Each year, we recognize the winners of the Harvard Medal. The Harvard Medal is among the highest honors awarded by the university and recognizes individuals who have given extraordinary service to Harvard. This year's 4 recipients, who are all here with us today, merit this recognition for their exemplary and inspirational commitment to our university. I will read the citations, and I ask that each of the medalists please stand as your name is announced. Sarah, please join me at the podium. Kathleen Delaney Smith. A true MVP on and off the court. You redefined excellence in athletics, blazing a trail as the winningest coach in Ivy League history, advocating for gender equity in sports, demonstrating how to rebound from challenges, and inspiring generations with your trademark grit and wit to visualize success and achieve their highest goals. Paul Finnegan, AB 75, MBA 82. A treasured university citizen, driven by a passion for education, you have radiated unwavering dedication to Harvard for more than 4 decades, campaigning for Harvard's academic mission, endowing numerous leadership roles with your financial acumen and sound judgment, and leaving an enduring mark on the university's foundation and future. Carolyn Hughes, AB 54. Motivated by your love of learning, you crossed the Charles from Alston to Cambridge, a short journey that sparked a lifelong commitment to expanding access to higher education for others, reflected in nearly 50 years of interviewing prospective undergraduates about what excites them and engaging fellow alumni from Mineola to Montauk. David Johnston, AB 63. An esteemed public servant with a keen intellect and a gift for collaboration, you have scored a rare hat trick, distinguishing yourself at the highest levels of athletics, academia, and government, all while standing on guard for the Harvard community on campus, in your home of Canada, and around the world. Please join me in congratulating the 2025 Harvard medalists.
Thank you again, President Garber and Ms. Carmone. And congratulations once again to our 2025 Harvard medalists. I got to call them. This is one of the best parts of this job. It was my pleasure, and congratulations. And now, I am honored to introduce our 2025 Harvard Alumni Day speaker, Dr. Atul Gawande. Dr. Gawande is MD 95, MPH 99. A renowned surgeon, best-selling author, and public health leader, Dr. Gawande has devoted his career to rethinking how medicine is practiced and how it is delivered to improve health outcomes for all. Most recently, holding the position of Assistant Administrator for Global Health at USAID, he was previously a practicing surgeon and a professor at Harvard's Medical and Public Health Schools. He co-founded and chaired Ariadne Labs, a joint center for health systems innovation, and LifeBox, a nonprofit organization making surgery safer globally. A surgeon with the heart of a storyteller, Atul Gawande has a rare gift. He shows us that medicine is not just a science, but a profoundly human endeavor, one that demands reflection, empathy, and continuous improvement. Through his writing, research, and leadership, he challenges us all to ask, how can we do better? It is a privilege to have him here today. When my late mother was ill, I read his Being Mortal on an advice of a dear friend, and it was life-changing. And I just want to say thank you very much, and welcome, Dr. Gawande.
Thank you, Moitri. That meant a lot. President Garber, Provost Manning, and fellow alumni. Thank you for inviting me here to speak. It means so much. Alumni Day has apparently drawn a record 9,000 attendees this year. I think I know why. Lately, I too have been hungry to connect with others in this community. Certainly, this is a chance to reminisce and to catch up with friends, but we are also here to rally around this institution in a perilous time. Let me tell you some of what I have seen. I'm a child of Indian immigrants who came here for medical training, and I was raised in rural Ohio where they practiced as physicians. I too became a doctor and came to have more than 3 decades at Harvard in surgery and in public health. What I learned here led to an opportunity in January of 2022 to take a leave to lead global health at the U.S. Agency for International Development. It was the best job you've probably never heard of. I led 2,500 health professionals in more than 65 countries, and with less than half the budget of the Mass General Brigham, where I work, about $24 per American taxpayer, they saved lives by the millions and contained disease threats all across the world. Now, before I departed the agency at the end of my term on January 20 of this year, I briefed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about several initiatives poised to transform global health because of American public health research and science. For example, I mentioned the rollout of a breakthrough single-shot drug that prevents HIV for up to a year, which has the potential to end the AIDS pandemic. Preparations for 3 promising TB vaccines currently in trials, and the deployment of an inexpensive package of therapies proven to reduce post-childbirth hemorrhaging, the leading cause of maternal deaths in the world, by 60%. The incoming administration had every reason to advance such initiatives. Congress had already allocated the funding with bipartisan support, but instead we got surgery with a chainsaw. I watched from the sidelines in horror as the new administration, ignoring congressional directives, purged staff, terminated 86% of USAID's programs, kneecapped the rest, and shuttered the agency. In doing this, they dismantled America's largest civilian capacity abroad, our primary vehicle of soft power, dedicated to advancing global stability, peace, economic prosperity, and survival. And they did it in a way that maximized human suffering, loss of life, and waste of taxpayer dollars. Now, during this terrible time, I talked to many former colleagues at USAID who were under immense pressure to take troubling actions outside of established procedures. For example, to dismiss fellow employees or to recommend terminating life-saving programs under the fiction of eliminating fraud and waste. They needed an ear and sometimes advice. And I found myself relying more on my experience with surgical patients than with public health policy. And that is what I'd like to tell you about today. I graduated from Harvard Medical School 30 years ago this month. What I loved most about medical school was the invitation into people's lives and the chance to help solve some of their most frightening problems. Every clinical rotation provided me an opportunity for that. But it was the operating room that captivated me. I remember, for example, the case of a college student with infectious mononucleosis. The infection had caused his spleen to enlarge and rupture, and he arrived in the emergency room in hemorrhagic shock. The team could barely detect a blood pressure. By the time we had him on the operating table and under anesthesia, he was on the verge of cardiac arrest. The surgical resident opened the young man's belly in 2 decisive moves. With a knife, he made a swift slash down the middle, through the skin, from the rib cage to below the belly button. And then with open scissors, he pushed upwards through the linea alba, the fibrous tendon that runs vertically between the abdominal muscles. Blood burst out of him, and the resident plunged his hand into the opening. The attending surgeon stood across from him, asking in an eerily calm, quiet voice, "Have you got it? Now you have 30 more seconds." And suddenly the resident had freed the spleen and lifted it to the surface. It was fleshy and heavy, and blood was pouring from its torn capsule. The attending surgeon put a clamp across its tether of blood vessels, and the bleeding stopped instantly. The patient was saved. I mean, how can you not love that? Fixing people with your own hands had to learn how to do that. And surgery proved to be deeply gratifying work. I fixed a lot of people. And yet I was not prepared for how many people would come to me with problems I could not fix. Chronic diseases, incurable diseases, issues of frailty, terminal conditions. How was I supposed to help with these problems? What did it mean to excel at that? I explored these questions by writing about them. And for my book, Being Mortal, I interviewed more than 200 people with unfixable problems. I also spoke with their family members and scores of people trained to help them: geriatric social workers, palliative care doctors, hospital nurses. Among the people I spoke to was an 89-year-old woman I'll call Mrs. Kittredge. She had congestive heart failure, debilitating arthritis, a series of falls, and no choice but to leave her Delray Beach condo for a nursing home. She'd picked a place up here near her daughter. It was safe, had excellent ratings, and nice staff. But a month into her stay, Mrs. Kittredge was wretchedly unhappy. She wanted more from life than simply physical safety. "I know I can't do what I used to, but this feels like a hospital, not a home," she said to me. The nursing home's priorities were things like avoiding bed sores, maintaining weight, preventing falls, important medical goals, but well short of a meaningful life. Mrs. Kittredge had traded an airy condo she decorated herself for a small beige room with a stranger for a roommate and a single cupboard for her belongings. Her days were governed by a rigid schedule: waking, dressing, meals, medications, activity time, bed. But she felt she had so much still to offer. "I want to be helpful, play a role," she said. She used to make jewelry and volunteer in a library. Playing bingo and watching movies couldn't be all there was anymore. We continually fail to recognize that people have other priorities besides just living longer. The experts I spoke to for Being Mortal taught me how to elicit these priorities by asking the right questions. Questions like, what is your understanding of what lies ahead with your health? What are your fears should your situation worsen? What are your hopes? What are you willing and not willing to sacrifice for the possibility of more time? What is essential to you for your quality of life? When I asked Mrs. Kittredge what was essential to her life, she was clear: friendships, purpose to my days, and privacy, she said. It was the best living will ever. She'd spelled out exactly what her caregivers should help her preserve and never sacrifice. Over the decades since Being Mortal was published, I came to realize that these discussions are not just for those facing a serious illness or disability. The same sorts of questions apply to anyone facing a crisis. What is your understanding of what lies ahead? What are your fears and hopes if your situation worsens? What are you willing and not willing to sacrifice? What is essential to you? Over the last 5 months, I've discussed these questions with my former colleagues facing crisis at USAID. And then elsewhere, as the administration expanded its disruptions, friends at the National Institutes of Health and Centers for Disease Control, for example, have struggled to decide what policies and requests they would accept to preserve their life's work. As science and public health are slashed and subjected to political controls. And I've discussed similar questions now with leaders outside the federal government as they determine what they would and would not countenance for the sake of their professions and organizations. In recent months, the White House has issued punitive executive orders against major law firms for employing or representing people and organizations that the president considers adversaries. These orders have directed federal agencies to terminate contracts with any organization using these law firms' services and to block the firms from accessing government buildings and necessary information. I spoke to a senior partner in one of these firms as its leaders considered what to do. Would it brave the existential threat posed by these orders and fight them in court? Like many firms, or would it, like many firms, attempt to neutralize the threat through an agreement with the administration to accept restrictions and an obligation to do pro bono legal work for the president? The lawyer told me that he and his partners had been anticipating an attack for weeks and were already asking those difficult questions. What were their priorities besides survival? What were they willing and unwilling to sacrifice? He had been at the firm for decades, and he recalled some of the people they had represented over the years, the weak who stood up to the powerful, victims of illegal government actions, people whom no one else would represent. He said, we remain that firm today, and we must remain that firm tomorrow. Plus, who knew what was to come? If we fight, he said, we could lose partners, we could lose clients, we could go out of business. But then again, if we capitulate, we could lose partners, we could lose clients, we could go out of business. The partner later told me the discussions were hard, but the answer was ultimately easy. When the executive order finally came, his firm was one of 4 that decided to fight. They would not sacrifice their integrity or core principles. Their decision did cost them clients, but it also attracted new ones. Interest in working at the firm is up, and their people can hold their heads high. A federal court ultimately declared the executive order against the firm unconstitutional, but no one was under any illusions. They are not home free. The president may find new ways to punish them. In fact, he has found new ways to make the firms that capitulated pay, and they will be paying the price of their capitulation for years to come. Now, Harvard has become targeted alongside many other universities. I returned to Harvard and Brigham and Women's Hospital in January and learned last week that my own research center's work, reducing mortality for surgical patients, has been defunded, along with the rest of the public funding that sustains this institution's world-changing work in research and science. International students, including current students, may no longer be allowed to study here. Even the accreditation of top universities is now under threat. So we here too have had to ask ourselves, as a community and as individuals, what are our priorities besides survival? What are we willing to sacrifice and not willing to sacrifice? What is essential to us? Do we brave this existential threat and challenge these vindictive and illegal actions in court? Or do we try to neutralize the threat by submitting to this administration's draconian demands? The discussions were... No. The discussions have been hard, but the answer was ultimately easy. I want to express gratitude to Alan Garber and the corporation who chose to fight rather than capitulate. Our commitment to tackling serious issues of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of prejudice must not waver. And as you heard from President Garber, it will not. However, the integrity and independence of this centuries-old institution of teaching, scholarship, and discovery are non-negotiable. In the past 5 months, I've had the misfortune to have a front row seat as the current regime has moved to weaken and even outright dismantle core foundations of humanitarian assistance, science, public health, law, and higher education. On the other hand, that has allowed me to speak from direct experience about the senseless destruction of essential capacities, vital norms and rules, and already tens to hundreds of thousands of lives. We are a nation in crisis. A struggle is taking place between a rules-based social order and a power-based order. On one side, we have our institutions founded on the principle that all human beings are created equal, are endowed with unalienable rights, and deserving of liberty, dignity, and self-determination. On the other, it seems we have might makes right, a proudly amoral, ruthless, Mad Max world of winners and losers, dominators and the dominated, with no higher goal than power, wealth, and attention. I have faith, however, that our better angels will prevail. One, because as Tacitus warned the emperors of ancient Rome, authority founded on force and empty of ideals is hated, short-lived, and unstable. Two, because chaos, destruction, and denial of reality do not deliver a better life. Three, because we have had 250 years as a nation founded on a core idea of universal equality and do not want to squander this legacy for which so many previous generations have sacrificed their lives to sustain. And 4, because the power-based understanding of human motivation is impoverished and wrong. People want to live in a society guided by hope, not fear. And as Mrs. Kittredge affirmed, we all need to live for a larger purpose beyond ourselves and what we can acquire. Something that is worth our making sacrifices for. In my surgical practice, I have navigated serious illness and crisis with many people, and it is a process. It seems to me that we as a community and as a nation are going through a similar process. The disease we face is dangerous. It has already inflicted considerable harm. We are all working through assessing that reality and accepting that life as we knew it has changed. We must grieve the loss of former certainties and come to clarity about our purpose and priorities going into an uncertain future. But navigating it is far easier when we know who we are and what we stand for. Institutions and nations, like human beings, are perishable. But unlike with human beings, death is not inevitable. They can live on. They are how we can endure. Thank you.
What a powerful and thought-provoking keynote address. One more round of applause for Dr. Gawande. Thank you so much for your inspiring remarks. Dear friends, indeed, no Harvard gathering would be complete without the singing of our school anthem. Please join together as our alumni musical groups lead us in singing Fair Harvard. honored guests, fellow alums, and friends, thank you for joining us in person and on the live stream. Hi, everybody. On our 2025 Harvard Alumni Day. On behalf of the Harvard Alumni Association, thank you so very much, Harvard volunteers and Harvard alums, for all you do to stay connected to this expansive, special community. Thank you. Okay, so one quick note. We are, talking to our atmospheric experts here, and we may have some unexpected, unsettled weather this afternoon. If you are attending lunch in the yard, there will be several buildings in the yard open should we see thunder and lightning. Fingers crossed. We will reconvene next year on June 5th, 2026. Please save the date. And Sheriff, shall we adjourn? Thank you, everybody.
As the High Sheriff of Middlesex County and a proud fellow alum of this great university, I declare that the meeting will be adjourned!